Hi, my name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested. Today, I have in front of me an absolutely splendid example of a Remington Noiseless Portable. This particular typewriter dates from 1936, and as you can see, it's just in absolutely marvelous condition. There are, of course, a couple of scars on it which had to be addressed, but consistent with a 90-year-old typewriter. I mean, for example, I had to repaint the white here because that had come completely off. There was a spring in the paper tray that had to be replaced. A couple of little areas on the metal which I had to take a black paint pen to kind of patch up just to hide a little bit. And I had to get some spool rings so that rather than sitting on top of the plastic ring and above where they should, that these would sit down correctly and look correctly, so you get a nice even top here instead of an offset. And I was just getting ready to wrap this up, take some pictures and put it up on the database when I gave it a final check, and I noticed that there was one little item that I didn't quite like, and it's very subtle, and that has to do with the impression. So if you let me type real quick. If you notice, if I zoom in here a bit, you can see that the tops of these letters are just a little bit soft. Now, the thing about this particular typewriter is because it's a thrust system and not I don't even know what you'd call a standard system, standard throw that you get off that you have on the type bars. The type is always going to be a little less distinct than what you would expect off another typewriter. That's not to say it's not perfectly legible. It's just not as crisp as you might otherwise want. So when I initially looked at this, it made it a little hard to judge. But now that I've taken a look at it more closely, I can see that I don't exactly like what I've got here. I'll also point out that in this particular typewriter, you also have to use somewhat lighter technique than you will on others, or it will start to skip. But the reason that this text is a little bit soft has to do with the position of the carriage. Now, this particular model is a Carriage Shift, as you can see clearly. So that means that what's happening is that the carriage is sitting a little too low. So the tops of the letters, and if you think of this flashlight, for example, as the platen, the tops of letters have to impact perpendicular to it. If the platen is sitting a little bit low, then the tops of letters aren't going to have the backing and aren't going to print the way they're supposed to. Because even though this is a thrust system, there's still inertia to carry the type bar forward to make the impression on the paper. So what we need to do now is to make an adjustment with that. And I will show you how that's going to be done here. Let me lift this up a little bit. So let me readjust my tripod here. I can show you exactly how this setup works. Now, if you look, you will see that there are two screws down here. There is this big one here and this small one here. Now, if you tip this up, it's going to want to go into the shift position. So this, holding the shift up so that it's in the lowercase position, this here is the lowercase stop, and this here is the uppercase stop. Now, interestingly, here the end of the screw stud is the stop for the lowercase, but the back of the screw head is the stop for the uppercase. So you need to make sure you keep that in mind when you're making this adjustment so you can move things in the proper direction. So with this, what I need to do is I need to let the platen lift a little bit higher up. Remember, it's being held too low. It needs to come up just a bit. So let me grab a 1/4-inch wrench, and I will loosen the lock here. And the other lock is way back up here. Kind of hard to see, but it's there. And now, with it in lowercase, the platen is sitting too low. So it's sitting on the stud. The stud is allowing it to drop too low. So that means I need to loosen the nut up a little bit so I have some room, and I need to tighten this screw so that the stud sticks further out and prevents the platen from falling down as far as it should. And I need to do the same thing on the uppercase, except in this case, it's holding the platen down too low. So here, I actually need to turn it counterclockwise to loosen it up to allow the platen to lift higher up. Now, obviously, this is somewhat of an imprecise adjustment, and it's going to affect my on-feet adjustment. So I'm going to have to check this a couple of times and see how it looks. So let me get focused back in on the type line. And I can do a quick little so the first question is, and ignore that because the platen wasn't properly settled in the right position. So the first question is, did I make the change I wanted to make? And if you look, you can see that the tops of these letters are definitely more distinct. So I have moved far enough. Now I just need to get the text to line up the way it's supposed to. So and of course that's just lowercase, but it looks good. So now let's try and we have the lowercase down a little bit from the uppercase. Now, because I was trying to raise this to make sure that I didn't have soft tops, I am going to leave the uppercase where it is, and I'm going to make the adjustment on the lowercase. All right. So let's tighten this just a little bit more. And get my wrench. I think about that. Now in this case, I've decided that I'm done with the uppercase adjustment, so I'm going to lock that down. And it's very hard to get in here to do that. A little more light so I can see. Get in there. There we go. Now on this one, snug it down just a little bit so it doesn't move. Typewriter back where it was. Check again and see how we're doing. I'm typing a little bit softly, so ignore that. Did it just maybe go the wrong way? Well, let's see. Okay, so let's back that off just a little bit. Come on. Sometimes it's hard to pick things up. About an eighth of a turn, I guess. Snug it back down. Looks like I still need to go just a little bit more. And that's what this adjustment is all about. A bit of trial and error. So, give it another 1/16 of a turn. Put it back. Acceptable, but I am somewhat of a perfectionist in this regard, so I'm going to do just a hair more. Might have overdone it just slightly. Interesting. I'm going to pull it back up just a hair, but then I'm going to call it good. Make sure both of these are cinched down properly. And if I can get in there. Yep. Hello there, all you somewhat happy people. No accounting for my typing. Anyway, you can see that the tops here are a lot more clear and a lot more crisp than they were when we started. So we have successfully made that adjustment, and in so doing, by fixing the top, we've actually somewhat increased the overall density of the type, or at least the appearance of it, and this is going to be a decent unit. Now, as I said, one thing about this is you have to adjust your typing technique, because if you're slamming on the keys, you will start to skip. And a lot of typewriters require a fairly firm touch, but it requires a very staccato touch. This particular one requires an even lighter touch. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Once again, my name is Wayne, and this is type tested with a Remington Noiseless Portable from 1936 and a beautiful shiny typewriter.